Good Friday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope your weekend's off to a great start. Thanks for joining us. Some Browns news to talk about and some news from around the NFL. So the Cardinals cut DeAndre Hopkins earlier this afternoon. Just flat out cut him. No trade, no anything. DeAndre Hopkins cut by the Arizona Cardinals. CBS Sports has listed the landing spots for them. Number 6, they say the Browns, and you see, aren't exactly loaded with cap space, $7 million or so. Hopkins did play with Deshaun Watson in Texas. They were really effective together. But with Mari Cooper here, not sure there is room in that wide receiving core for DeAndre Hopkins. Number 7 on this list, they say the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they did draft Zay Flowers. They did sign Odell Beckham Jr. to a huge contract. Recently on the I Am Athlete podcast, DeAndre Hopkins talked about the 5 quarterbacks he would most like to play with.
Josh Allen. He reminds me of an old school or of a new school Andrew Luck. And you know, I love Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts. You know, man, he's Houston kid, your dog, Jalen. Number 3. Who I would love to have a ball thrown by. Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
Oof.
Number 4, I'm gonna have to go with. I gotta go with the underdog, man. The people, not a lot of people respect this guy, but you know, as a throwing quarterback, Lamar Jackson, obviously. And number 5, man, I'm gonna have to go with my dude at San Diego or the Chargers.
Herbert.
I'm gonna have to
Justin
go
Herbert.
Man.
Justin Herbert.
And with that, let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, Deshaun Watson played quite a bit with DeAndre Hopkins. The two have a pretty good relationship. There was a lot of chemistry there. The Browns, they decided early that wasn't going to happen. That's the trade for Elijah Moore, the signing of Maurice Goodwin. So that's not likely to happen. It's going to be awfully hard for Hopkins to get to a team that is good, that has money, that he's going to want a contract.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not willing to play for that veteran minimum, I don't see a path for him winding up in Cleveland. But it's, you know, he's only played 19 games over the last 2 seasons. He'll be 31 in a little over a week. You know, it's kind of reasonable to assume that his best ball is behind him. But he could make a positive addition to whatever team he goes to. It's just, what does he see as his role, and what does the team bringing him in envision his role to be? And for Cleveland, it comes down to one thing for me is Deshaun Watson asking management to go get DeAndre? Because if he is asking, then you have to explore. But if he's not, I mean, you're going to let someone else take that price tag.
Yeah, and Hopkins and Deshaun Watson had said, you know, he'd have to talk and see if it was realistic. And my guess is they came to the conclusion it wasn't realistic before they went out and did all that. So I agree with you. I don't think he's asking, and I don't necessarily think it fits. I still think Hopkins can play, and I think he has a skill set. It's not quite at the level it was 2-3 years ago, though.
Yeah. I mean, he was a dog. He played at least 15 games every season up until 2021, and then it's kind of fallen off. And you see that with receivers. Usually when they get around 30, that play just starts to dip a little bit. Not that they can't do it. They just can't keep it up for a full season. So it's kind of hard to invest in a player like that.
All right, this is from NFL.com. 2023 ranking worst to first candidates. Number 1, they say the Jets. Obviously, that is because of the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, they go with the Falcons. Number 3, the Browns. And they say Cleveland's ability to compete for a division title will ultimately come down to Deshaun Watson. Browns believe that. With the rust knocked off, Watson will return to his Pro Bowl level. If issues linger, however, it could be another long season on the shores of Lake Erie. Casey, it's going to depend on the start, obviously, because of the way the schedule lays out. If he gets back to the Pro Bowl level, they're not only a division contender, they're a conference contender, and I think the roster is good enough. If you have a Pro Bowl level quarterback, you're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I think them making this list is just an acknowledgement of the talent that's been added, because the first team on there, of course, they have Aaron Rodgers, so they're going to be a candidate. The Falcons being on that list, I mean, they're in a bad division. They could barely be just a little better than they were and still win that division. But to put the Browns on there, you're saying something, because the AFC North is a cutthroat division, especially when you have a team like Cincinnati sitting on top, a team like Baltimore who's taking a slightly different approach, but they're going to be loading up this year. And as much as I want to, you can't count out Pittsburgh. But it's just an admission of the talent that's been added and the fact that if it all comes together, there's no reason why they can't win this division.
So Dan Graziano, ESPN, talked about what he's hearing expectations are for Deshaun Watson from the Browns.
They're excited, and the reason they're excited is because they feel like last offseason, and for all the we don't have to go over the reasons and his own culpability for them, but last offseason was overshadowed by the fact that he hadn't played the year before, by the fact that there was a looming suspension that turned out to be for the first 11 games of the season. So they feel like without all that present this offseason, and the fact that he did play some games at the end of last year, should have him ready to go, and their hope is to be the old Deshaun Watson from 2020 when he led the league in passing yards. They think that player is still in there, and their hope and their sense of it is that an unencumbered offseason will help him. Will help that player come back out. We'll find out, but they are eager to get going with Deshaun Watson without the threat of suspension looming over this offseason.
And Casey, again, if he has to be good enough to make plays that enable you to win games late. If he does that, they're in good shape.
Yeah, can you imagine if they weren't enthusiastic about their outcome this year going into it? Of course, and he's shown that he can do that in the past. It's all about that rust, the 700-day layoff. It's crazy to me that people act like those 6 games is who Deshaun Watson is now, and that's just the way it's going to be going forward. Just getting back to the game, getting back to being in and out of those meeting rooms, lifting weights, doing everything that you do on a day-to-day basis as a quarterback. He's going to be back into the groove. And once he's into the groove, I just assume that we're going to be back to the level that even if he doesn't get back quite to 2020, just a tick below that is still good enough to make this team a contender for the conference, not even just the division.
Yeah, and in reality, if you're a contender for the AFC North, you're a contender for the AFC. The division is that good. So this is from Mike Sando, national writer for The Athletic. The Browns' best offseason move. And he goes with Jim Schwartz. The Jim Schwartz acquisition stands out. It's easy to fire a coordinator when one side of the ball falls short of expectations. It's harder to find a top-tier replacement. Cleveland found one in Schwartz, whose track record should command respect right away. And from all indications, not only respect, it's kind of breathed life into people on that side of the football.
Yeah, it's kind of easy for this to fly under the radar because it happened so early in the offseason and all the draft and free agency and everything that happens in the trade for Za'Darius. But the truth is, even if none of those things happened, this defense would have been better just from the addition of Jim Schwartz to it. Then you add on to all the new talent they've injected and the players that are going to get clean slates, to be judged going forward off what Schwartz thinks of them. It's just a recipe for flying around on defense. It's going to be very fun to see what a coordinator that'll hold players accountable and kind of keep it simple and play players to their strengths. These are all things that Schwartz does regularly, so it's easy to get excited about the addition of Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski talked in media availability just about kind of installing that Jim Schwartz defense.
I think, we're so early into our installation that we're still scratching the surface. I mean, there's many more meetings and many more things that we'll get to, but I think the energy's there. I really love watching the coaches coach. I think they're all doing a great job working with young players to old players, because like you mentioned, it's new for a bunch of people. I think Rodney McLeod could probably coach it up based on his experience, but for a lot of these guys, everything's new. So when you run a coverage for the first time, you may make a mistake early, and that's okay. So we're just trying to clean up any mistakes, but I think all told, I think they're doing a really nice job.
Casey, and yes, it is early without question, but everybody who has seen some of the organized team activities, which we need to mention are voluntary, has kind of come away and said, you can already see it. You know, the whole mindset is get after things in the backfield on the defensive side of the ball. All the drills they do, everything they do is with the mindset of creating havoc for the quarterback and in the offensive backfield.
Yeah, aggressiveness. You love to see it. You know, we've kind of had a front row seat to some passive play this last few years, and you're going to get to see some aggressive play. And it's just it's the emphasis. The emphasis on getting to the passer. Yeah, in this league, the way that it's set up with the quarterbacks, if you can't affect the passer, you really can't affect the game. So that's going to be priorities 1 through 3 for Schwartz, and he has the people to do it for him. You know, and he got over the years, you kind of hear things like, well, he doesn't blitz much. And it's not the frequency of blitzing; it's the quality of blitzing. You know, when he brings it, he will bring it. It'll be timely. He'll come off the edge. But what I like what he does too to get to the quarterback is he'll use delayed blitzes from the linebackers. That screams success for someone like JOK. You know, be able to get him to come a tick late and kind of scream through the line and get to the quarterback. So it's going to be havoc back there. I don't think any team who has the Browns on the schedule are looking forward to that matchup.
No, and the other thing that he is really good at doing is identifying a matchup that plays to his favor, and then just that matchup is something you will see at any critical time he can find a way to get it. He's going to take it.
That's why I love the addition of Za'Darius. I just think that he's going to be a chess piece, and he'll move around a lot, and you'll see him in different areas. They're going to kind of test the waters to see what he's able to do against, you know, different players and different matchups. And you may see it to a degree with Myles, although I expect Myles to land up in his normal spot because that's where he's the most comfortable. And if it's not broke, don't fix. You know, you don't have to go crazy trying to scheme Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett will get his. But Za'Darius is that chess piece that you can exploit matchups with.
So Nick Chubb has been doing Nick Chubb kind of things. We see via Instagram he is lifting the equivalent of a VW bug, squatting it, getting under it, and you know, this is one of the reasons. You know, we show that, we laugh, and it's one of the reasons he's so durable. This guy he gets after it in the offseason.
Yeah, just putting in the work. You know, you don't have to worry about Nick Chubb not being prepared for an NFL season. He knows the rigors, and I know that there's more emphasis on passing for the Browns, but I would still assume that Nick Chubb's probably going to see those 300 carries one way or the other, and he's going to be fully prepared to go into the season ready for battle.
Yeah, and the other thing is if they throw the ball more, you would think that's with Deshaun Watson, lighter boxes, that's less guys kind of beating on him as he gets to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it could lead to more just efficiency. And we're talking about a player who's all-time efficient at 5.2 per carry. You know, even if that increases to 5.5, I mean, it's just crazy to me how stellar he's been through his career, and he's been doing this with loaded boxes. So once the Browns are able to establish that passing game, it's going to be scary, especially for defensive backs that have to try to come up and stop 24 in the hole.
Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Good afternoon, Dave and guest. Frequent listener, occasional caller. Love the show. As I look at the Browns roster position by position, I kind of tend to look to see who we can least afford to lose. It comes back to Tomlinson. I fear if he goes out with the injury long term, we're back in the same situation at defensive tackle. Maybe we can get Mary Kay to start campaigning for Mad Ioannidis. It may work the same way it did for Elijah Moore. Thanks for listening.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Casey, Tomlinson's important, but they've upgraded the scheme a little bit by what Jim Schwartz will ask them to do. And then I think Maurice Hurst is a little underrated. Siaka Ika. They've gotten bigger and better. Tomlinson is hugely important to that, but I don't think if he were to miss some time, I think the defense against the run would still be significantly better than it was last year. It couldn't be worse.
Yeah, I would obviously I would always go with Watson as the person they can't afford to get injured. But Tomlinson would be a major blow to them just because of his strength and what he means to that room, because he's going to be the A side of that defensive tackle room. But like you said, they put some lottery tickets in. They've gotten some extra bodies in there, and just scheme-wise, I don't think that they're in the same position they would be. But losing Tomlinson would be a major hit to that defense. We'll see what Ika can do. You know, that's kind of the X factor here is they would be in the same position, but they drafted a guy, a 335-pound guy, and I might be being generous there. So they would have more beef than they already had last year, and that was a major problem, was just getting blown off the line of scrimmage. So they could bring at least one person in that could hold anchor and work it out from there. And as far as Mary Kay getting on the Ioannidis train, I'd be all for it if she wants to do that and campaign for it.
Yeah, everybody is talking about Ioannidis. I think they're going to take a look and see what they have with some of the young guys. Hurst is a guy, by all indications, has been, you know, he looks to be healthy, and when he's been healthy, he's been an effective NFL defensive tackle.
Yeah, and that's why they take those flyers. It isn't going to hurt them to bring a player like that in and kick the tires. And if he can get it on the right track, then you got a playable piece, you know. Even if we're not talking starting caliber, but someone that you can rotate in, that could be massively helpful for this defense. So getting players like that and Hill, and you already have a guy like Elliott on the roster. So they have enough pieces, and like you said, they're going to let them work that out. And then if no one really gives them what they want, there's always roster cuts, you know. So this thing isn't over by a long shot.
All right, this from NFL.com. Bandwagons to hop on in 2023. They say Zadarius Smith. Smith, who turns 31 in September, has reached double-digit sacks and the Pro Bowl in each of his last 3 healthy seasons. And he's fired up to be in Cleveland, particularly when it comes to putting his hand in the dirt in the Browns' defensive scheme. The other thing is, I know he played with Danielle Hunter. He hadn't played with somebody like Myles Garrett yet. So that's, and again, Hunter's a really good player. Myles Garrett is even a step above him.
Yeah, Garrett's that one of one. I think Zadarius just realized the opportunity that's in front of him right here. You know, you get a chance to pair up with someone like Myles. You're not going to see any double teams. He knows there's another contract waiting for him on the other side of this year. You're going to get his best effort. And as far as the bandwagon on Smith, you're going to get on quick, because I've already got my spot and I'm not giving it up. You know, I'm on this train.
Yeah, and he's another guy. Give a guy that is that versatile to Jim Schwartz, and he's going to find a way to have him show up at times when he is needed most. All right, this from Browns Wire. NFL veterans who could lose their jobs to rookies in 2023. They say the Browns' Jordan Elliott is one of them. While Elliott does still have believers in the building, including new defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, Browns have added a ton of competition to round out their defensive tackle room, and this could lead to Elliott losing his job. And again, the goal isn't necessarily for somebody to keep their job or to lose their job. It's find enough guys that can do the job so you don't get into the situation you were in at defensive tackle a season ago.
Calling it Elliott's job is kind of generous to me. I think it was like a placeholder. He was there because they needed a body, and he's just the body that was there. I don't feel like if he gets beat out by a player that he lost his job per se. I just think they upgraded. And I'll also say this, you know, whoever does win that job, I don't expect them to play more than 50% of the snaps anyway. I think with Tomlinson, you're probably looking at 65 to 70%. Whoever's beside him, probably roughly 50, and then the rotation to fill in the difference. You know, so I really don't look at it as him losing his job per se.
Yeah, and Jim Schwartz's MO is wave the guys in. Keep them fresh. Don't let them get – if you keep them fresh, they're faster, they're quicker, they're off the ball, and they don't get as beat up. It's a cumulative effect, especially on the lines. I continually say this. Television does not do justice to how physical playing on the line of scrimmage is in an NFL game. It is brutal.
Yeah, and it keeps them more effective in the fourth quarter for when the game matters most, when you can keep guys fresh. When you run guys into the ground and then you're asking them on a big third down with 2 minutes to go get that stop, sometimes they just don't have it. By rotating them in, keeping them fresh, you have a better chance of making that big play when it really matters.
All right, landing spots for free agents still available. This from the Bleacher Report. Edge rusher Yannick Ngakoue, landing spots Falcons and Browns. Browns could also use Ngakoue even after adding Smith and Okoronkwo to a rotation that includes Myles Garrett in the offseason. Team can never have too much pass rushing depth. And then linebacker Kyle Van Noy, landing spots Browns and Raiders. He could make a lot of sense for the Browns, who experienced several injuries at linebacker last season and struggled mightily against the run. Case, I don't see either. I don't see either of those guys ending up here, just because Isaiah McGuire they drafted, and that's a guy that you think could be a rotational piece along with Alex Smith, Isaiah Thomas. There are guys there. And if they're going to spend the money, it's going to be on a different area, I believe.
Yeah, that's it just right there. I think that you would take someone like Yannick Ngakoue on your team, but is he going to sign for the minimum? No. And yes, you can always use more pass rush, but there's only so much you can afford to one positional group. So and it wouldn't be smart for him to sign here. He's not going to get the run that he would need to get, and he can get more money elsewhere. He's a bad injury from like Von Miller from signing a decent deal in Buffalo or someplace like that, So I don't see them going after him. And then Van Noy just isn't a fit for me. He's a linebacker, but he's a 3-4 rush outside linebacker. That's just not something that this team needs. And I just don't see that being the direction they go if they need linebacker help.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Casey Kinnamon, is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. Dog Pound Daily, always really good stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, joins us. Some film analysis of a couple of the Browns' rookie undrafted free agents straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time to take a look at some film analysis, video breakdown of some of the Browns' rookie undrafted free agents. Whenever we take a look at film, we welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. And Lance, we've gotten a couple of voicemails, some emails. With the first guy we're going to talk a little bit about, a running back, Hassan Hall from Georgia Tech.
Well, yeah, I really like him on film. So he was at Louisville for 4 years, and then he went to Georgia Tech. I actually looked at him last year a little bit on film when he was at Louisville. He's kind of, when you watch him on film, I don't know if he's great at anything, but he's really good at a lot of things. So, you're talking about he ran sub 4.5. He's a small area guy, so he had 37-inch vertical leap. He had a 10-10 broad jump, which tells me he's really explosive. Then he was strong. He had 18 reps at the bench for 225. Like I said, he played 4 years. He had 100. The thing I liked is that when he's at Georgia Tech, he became the focal guy a little bit later. So he had 106 carries, over 500 yards. But what I liked is at Georgia Tech, he had 28 receptions in that 1 year. So he's versatile. He pass protects pretty well. He doesn't have great breakaway speed, but he's really, really tough. And I think he'd be a good fit for what the Browns are trying to do.
All right, let's take a look at some of the things that he can do. Take us through the first clip, what we see here.
Well, it's a little variation. A lot of things you're going to see in the NFL. This is a variation off the zone to the right, so it's just kind of a bend back play. Does a really good job putting his foot in the ground, getting around the edge. This is kind of what he does. So he's not a breakaway guy, but he always seems to be open. He always seems to make a good cut. He seems to read his blocks very well. He breaks that first tackle, very durable, never goes out of bounds. He's a tough guy. So, again, this is a variation. It's very similar to what you see in the NFL when teams make their variations off their bread and butter. Stefanski does this all the time. So this is actually a zone to the right that Louisville has turned into a cutback on the left side. Again, this is when he's with Louisville for 4 years.
You see that the foot in the ground, that'll get some of the defenders to come up and kind of gets him to the edge. The other thing that the next clip is you say he likes to finish, and he finishes strong.
Well, again, so this is an outside zone here. Again, I try to find plays that are similar to Browns do. So this is an outside zone here to the left to the boundary. Again, not going to run out of bounds, finishes the play, stumbles a little bit. Again, not a super breakaway threat, but he's a guy that I think would be very durable. He's a guy who would be dependable. I think he's a guy that plays special teams. He can be a third down back if needed. He can give spells if needed. They're going to need that third down back. They haven't made any moves yet. Also, Ford is very inexperienced, so they need some competition for him behind Chubb. So, again, this guy puts his foot in the ground, finishes plays. He's run a lot of plays that the Browns run with the counter and zone scheme. So I think he'd be familiar with what they do. Again, I just like his film. He's very consistent in what he does.
And he will get some opportunities in training camp and likely in the preseason to show that he belongs. All right, this next clip, you mentioned change of direction in this as well.
Well, yeah, so this is the class. Here's a play that's just a power play to the from Louisville to the boundary here again. He actually gets outside bounces. Again, almost like a jump cut. He does jump cut very well. Change of direction. He has good short area burst. He's quicker than he is fast. But in the NFL, for me, he's all of a sudden you give him the ball and it's stuck in and sticks. I don't know if he's going to give you the home run plays. He may never give you the home run plays, but he reads his blocks very well. The end plays pretty well here, kind of stalemates the fullback, so he just bounces it. And he does a really good job of putting his foot in the ground again, putting his head down, and then again, creating a good third down or second down and manageable. This will be third down, so now he's got it to 3rd and 4, which for an offense coordinator is a great down and distance.
So we take a look at running back Hall. Let's take a look at another position where the Browns could potentially have some room for another person, a linebacker, and this is Mohamoud Diabate. Tell us what you see with Diabate.
So Diabate was at Florida, and then he went to Utah. Diabate is about as perfect for a Jim Schwartz defense as you can get. So here he is at linebacker. He's going to drop in coverage. He's got great ball skills. This guy is a 4'5", 240, 11-foot broad jump. He's a 6'9", 6'3" cone, so he's got great short area burst. Position flexibility. He plays all over the field. So he can play linebacker, he can play edge, he can play out in space. He actually has a bunch of plays in A and B gap, C gap, plays on the edge, plays in space. Really like his, in terms of what he brings, he's a super athlete that can play all kinds of positions for Schwartz. And I think that's, when you think about what Schwartz is looking for, this is a guy. This is a guy who has all the skills in the world. Last year he played 523 snaps, had 15 QB hurries, he had 7 quarterback sacks. He's constantly in the backfield. He's a one-back guy. He's a one-gap penetrator right now, so he's not a super. He doesn't take out blocks real well. He's a little bit light, which probably is why he went undrafted. But he's a guy. He's a specialist, so he can be a nickel guy. He's a guy that doesn't have to produce. He's undrafted. but he's got a lot of ability, and this is one of his plays. So here he is in Florida. He lines up at backer. He's actually the spy. So he's going to spy. He reads the quarterback's eyes. Has great ball skills. Catches the ball with his hands and gets upfield. So this is just one of the many things he does.
Yeah, you can see pretty good hands, too, as he comes away with the interception. Take us through this next clip, what you see from Diabate here.
So here's on the bottom of the screen. He's going to actually run a Von Miller ghost rush, where he's actually just going to use raw speed. He's going to dip that right shoulder and get around that tackle without using anything. And this has been made famous by Von Miller in terms of just kind of using your raw speed and your ability to bend and dip your shoulder. So here he is as an outside linebacker, DN type guy coming off the edge. Again, could be a guy outside with Garrett inside. He really gets after he has a pretty advanced pass rush plan. And what I like is that here he just thinks he can win with speed. And if you watch this USC game, he constantly gives this tackle trouble just with speed. And then he counters with some other things. But right here, he's a ghost move. Pretty advanced move for a guy who plays full-time defensive end, and this is the guy who plays all over the field. So, again, this is last year with Utah. They had a really productive year for them.
The other thing that you have said you saw with Diabate can play in space. Take us through what we see here.
So here's back with Florida. So now he's actually playing the will linebacker in space, kind of like a JOK. So he's actually the space guy. He's the outside backer. Could be a nickel guy. The NFL is full of these guys who are tweeners in terms of like what they can do with size and speed. If you can get a guy who's a little bit bigger, then he can hold up better against the run. Diabate can do all these things. So here he is at the will linebacker. He reads the bubble screen, and he puts his foot in the ground and he pulls the trigger and he goes. And he's really good tackle in space. Again, his one weakness is that he's not real big. He has pretty slender shoulders, so I don't know how much weight he's going to put on. But if you use him what he's good at, which is in space, one-on-one matchups, his athletic ability, he can do a lot of different things. He did a lot of this in Florida where he's going to play in space. He's a nickel linebacker here and does a great job. So he played inside, he's played the edge, all over the field, and kind of exactly what Schwartz likes.
All right, the third rookie undrafted free agent we're going to take a look at is a safety from Ohio State, Ronnie Hickman. Take us through what you see here.
Well, I had Ronnie Hickman. I had his fourth possible guy, the second day guy, fourth round possibly. So a guy who's really, really long. He's 6 foot. He's 203. He's got 33-inch arms. He's a 4.5 40 guy. Again, I thought he'd be gone in the draft earlier than a late round pick. I thought he'd be third, fourth, fifth round. Plays really long. What I like about him for the Browns is that the fact he is a guy whose defense that you and I have talked about. He can play both the strong safety, the delta position, and he can play the free safety where Thornhill's going to be. Here he is, ball hawking. He's the opposite safety. He's going to read the quarterback's eyes and make the play. The thing I like about him as well is he played for Jim Knowles at Ohio State. So he played this kind of advanced free safety look. So he had a lot of responsibility, a lot of rules. So I think that having responsibility will carry over very well to the NFL. And this is him playing center field and making a play on the ball. And he's a really good athlete. He's got all the tools. He's long, he's fast, he breaks well. So this could be a very good get by the Browns.
Well, so we see him playing in space, and you mentioned the versatility. Next clip that we're going to take a look at, him playing in the box.
So yeah, here Indiana's going to run a screen here, and they bring their tackle, and they're in man coverage. So again, a kind of a Schwartz thing where he's going to be in man coverage against tight ends, slot receivers, running backs, kind of he has to play down in the backs like linebacker. So even though he's got the tight end here, if they were to run the ball, he's got linebacker fits here in C and D gap. So he has to do a lot of different things. Very physical. He's 203 pounds, so he can play down in the box and he can play physical. But this kind of clip, these first couple of clips, as I watched him and watched some full games of him, again, he's a guy. The Browns are going out and getting Schwartz what he wants with guys who can play multiple positions. So here's a guy who can back up both spots. They got guys now that they've drafted, guys they picked up through free agency that can play all over the field. It gives them great versatility. It gives them great depth. This is the guy, again, this is him playing in the box, making a great play on the tight end.
Yeah, and so we've talked about playing in the box. You saw him playing the run or the pass in the box. This is him kind of playing the run. And you mentioned he's got to be able to do that in this defense that he played.
So Ohio State does a really good job. Their outside linebackers can take it down with the inside shoulder and make this bounce to Hickman. The Buckeyes, when they got going here, they did a pretty good job. This is him. He's actually got a scrape responsibility like a Mike linebacker or Sam linebacker. So in this look from Northwestern, this is a really good play. So Ohio State would often play that free safety look and bring him down in the box, especially on short yardage plays. And this is 100% a linebacker read, a linebacker fundamentals, linebacker scrape. He's scraping outside of his guy who took on the block, and he makes a really good play in space against a pretty good back from Northwestern.
You mentioned the versatility with all of these guys. That also means they likely can be effective in special teams, which is something that an undrafted rookie would need to be able to do if they're going to make the team, basically.
Yeah, and when you're the size of these guys and the speed of these guys, you can play multiple special teams. You can play the punt return, kick return. You're able to block if needed. So you're not just a speed guy who can cover. These guys can all play interior on the punt team. They can cover very well. They could be outside if needed. They could be bullets on the outside on punt team. There's just so many different things they can do. Hassan Hall returned a number of kickoffs when he was back at Louisville. So he's a guy who can help the return game, which the Browns have had desperately needed help with the last couple of years. So there's just so many things these guys can do. And you're right. The more they can do it, the more it gives them a chance. They got to be on the field as much as they can during OTAs, during minicamp. The more they're on the field, the more they're on the film. The more they're on the film, the more the coaches are seeing them during after practice when they're watching film. So I think these guys all have, they got a lot of really good guys. They got a couple other edge guys I like. They got Lonnie Phelps, who I really like, Jeremiah Martin I liked. But these three guys, I think, they have a chance to make the team just because of the positions they're at. You're always looking for edge guys. You're always looking for safety, especially when you're in this strong safety, free safety look that Schwartz likes to run. And right now, running back's a position of need. They don't have a lot of depth, and that's been the position that the Browns have been so deep at for a number of years. Hall's got a real chance to come in and just run really hard. And if you've looked in the past, the last couple of years, that offensive line has a tendency to make those backs look pretty good. And this guy is tough.
Lance Reisland, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out, Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Always really good film analysis and breakdown. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Randall McKissack, lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. Here's my question, my comment. I'd like to hear more about what the coaches are doing in the offseason to improve their leadership, communication skills, and play calling. And what are the Browns doing to improve the facilities, scouting, and the fans' in-game experience? We hear a lot about what the players got to do, but we don't hear what the organization or what the coaches have to do to make sure we have a successful season. I'd like to hear your comments. Thanks.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily. Randy, relative to leadership with the coaches, you switched out two of your three coordinators. That will change the leadership dynamic. And I think bringing in different personalities, very different personalities, will help a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think you did get an interesting set of personalities here where you have a guy who's had, decades of experience in Jim Schwartz, who even had experience as a head coach, and then you have an up-and-coming young guy taking over special teams in Bubba Ventrone. So I think that's one of the things that we're seeing that the coaches are doing. Another thing that we are seeing is just the moves they're making to improve the talent on the team. And let's be honest, if the team wins and they do better, that improves the fan experience, like he was asking about as well. So I think we can see what they're doing, what they're trying to put together, and kind of that base that they're trying to build with their coaching staff.
And relative to play calling, I didn't have a problem with Kevin Stefanski's play calling. Other people I know did. Play calling is really dependent on the quarterback, and when you break it up the way you did with an offense that was kind of worked around Jacoby Brissett, and then you tried to tweak it with Deshaun Watson. The offense wasn't the problem a season ago. The defense was a huge problem.
The defense was, and you're absolutely right. They were trying to, get through the there's no better way to say it. They're just trying to get through 2022 with that offense. They knew, I don't think they thought Deshaun Watson would really even play at all. Once they found out he was going to come and play for 6 games, it was more of, okay, what do we got to do for the first 11 games? How do we get him acclimated? But even with all of that going on the offense, they were 7-10 and had 5 games, I believe it was, where they lost by a score or less. You have games like the Atlanta game, the New York Jets game, where they completely, melted down and blew a 13-point lead with less than 2 minutes to go. So just a couple games like that, you still going to put together a winning record if you even had a defense that was, just 5% better than what they had last year. So the defense was definitely the problem. I don't think that play calling was an issue whatsoever. I think there's a lot of times that execution was an issue. And I think that goes back to the players. It's easier just to blame the coach and say that the play was bad when it doesn't work. But at the same time, if those plays are working, they're going to call the coach a genius. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, play calling is one of those things. When you're winning, the play calling is great, and when you're losing, the play calling just isn't quite there. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know you wrote an article for Dog Pound Daily. Kevin Stefanski being excited about his new game record. Take us through that.
Yes, Stefanski was just speaking during OTAs about Zadarius Smith, and you could just see him kind of get a little bit excited about it. He talked about how himself and other members of the coaching staff have had to go up against Smith, and that's how they know what a problem he can be. And I mean, I think that speaks volumes to it when these coaches know that they're going into a game, whether it was when he was with Green Bay, Minnesota, or Baltimore, and they were having to face him, and they just kind of knew this guy was going to be a problem. I think he kind of hit the nail on the head there. We're all talking about his pass rush win rate and his ability to get after the quarterback, and he's one of I think it's 5 guys that have had 3 seasons over the last 4 years with at least 10 sacks. But he's also very good on the edge, setting the edge against the run, which was probably the most underrated part of Jadeveon Clowney's game. So you have that guy who can still be disruptive, not just at getting after the quarterback, but slowing down the run when they try to take the ball to the outside. So I think that Stefanski's a little excited about that, knowing that, hey, we're going to have that same guy on the edge that can slow the run down, but he's going to provide a little bit more in terms of pass rush.
Yeah, I think about it. You're going to have to worry not only where Zadarius Smith is, but where Myles Garrett is. And
right.
That is a problem that Jim Schwartz will make sure that keeps some offensive coordinators and offensive line coaches up at night.
Yep, and he's okay having that problem to deal with, how to get both of them going. He'll be fine with that.
I'm with you. All right, another article you wrote, 3 early standouts from Browns OTAs, Juan Thornhill, Elijah Moore, and Maurice Hurst. So take us through those guys and some of the things that you're hearing about what they're doing and the good things that have gone on early.
Well, the first thing with Thornhill, I was really excited about him just because of his ability to play in that deep coverage. And, so he brings that ability. But then Roddy McLeod being there, they have 2 guys that can do it now, which is going to be a huge improvement for them. And Thornhill's already talking about how they're trying to learn, they're not really going to play deep or, free safety, strong safety, whatever. They're going to learn left side, right side. They're learning each other's position so they can go out there and they can play fast. I think having Thornhill out there is going to be huge for this defense. He's very opportunistic. He had 3 interceptions last year. I believe his final year in Virginia, he had like 8 interceptions. The guy can be a ball hawk when he's on. And in addition to that, he's already been a very positive force. He seems like he's really enjoying his time out there. I went and got a Browns tattoo and is out there throwing first pitches of the Guardians game. So he seems like he's loving life right now, bringing a good positive energy. Elijah Moore, I felt like, last time I was on the show, you and I talked about it, that he was kind of the missing piece to that offense. He's a guy who can stretch the field, but he can also be incredibly dangerous, taking a short slant pass and breaking a few tackles with his speed. So it's been, obviously they're in the shorts, they're not wearing pads, but just to see him and Deshaun Watson already kind of building a rapport, it's been really exciting to see. And then Maurice Hurst Jr., I mean, everyone knows he's got the talent. The guy was considered, a possible top 10 pick when he came into the NFL, had the heart condition. He's had other injury issues. He's only played 2 games over the last 2 years. So the concern with him is, can you keep him on the field? But they're already seeing in OTAs, there's the burst that he has off the ball, the speed that he brings, despite being 290-plus pounds. He can be another really good interior pass rusher if he stays healthy. So, of course, I felt like he was going to turn heads. The hope is just that he stays out there.
Yeah, that has been, when he has been on the field, he has been a productive NFL defensive tackle. Problem is it hasn't been as often as you would like. Myles Garrett, not at OTAs. Take us through, you wrote an article about it. Take us through what you're thinking with that.
I know that overall OTAs for a veteran is not a big deal, and it's not like Myles Garrett missing it is going to turn into all of a sudden he can't play. It's for his own production, for what he needs to do, it's absolutely fine. My whole take on it was, Myles wants to be a leader. I don't think that he really is. We kind of saw that last year when he was coming out, he was criticizing coaches, criticizing other players, and Kevin Stefanski was real quick to say Myles speaks for Myles. He didn't say Myles speaks for the team, Myles speaks for other players. He said Myles speaks for Myles. And I thought that was kind of definitive. But Myles continues. He wants to be that leader. He wants to be a guy that people look up to. He was quick to criticize Joe Woods, talking about, we would look. Doesn't matter if you want to run through a wall if you don't know which way you're going. So he wants to be that guy that people listen to, but your actions have to fall in line with that. So when the team does go and make a change at defensive coordinator, you might want to show a little bit of support and be there with the new defensive coordinator, learn the system. In the long run, it doesn't bother me a lot. I don't think that your defensive end needs to be a team leader. You got 53 guys on the team. You don't need 53 leaders. But I do believe that Myles wants his opinion to carry weight. I think he wants to be heard in the organization. And if that's what he wants, then he needs to let his actions line up with that as well and be there when it's not just when it's convenient for him.
Yeah, and again, it's voluntary. But I get it. The one thing is you can't be something you're not. You know what I mean? Same thing that we say about coaches. Players have to play what their personality is. Be who you are. And if you go out and you dominate on the field, people are going to follow you.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I've ever, I take a lot of grief for my stance or what I had said about Myles. And I think the only reason I even mentioned it is because the fact that I feel like he is trying to go beyond and trying to become that vocal team leader. And I don't think that that's his role, and I don't think it has to be his role. So, but like I said, if he wants to criticize other players for not stepping up and not taking advantage of certain situations, then he's got to be willing to walk the walk as well along with that, other than just playing on Sundays. And if that's all he wanted to do is go out there and play on Sundays, that's absolutely fine too, because he's phenomenal at it. So that's just, my take on it. And I know it's not incredibly popular.
Randy Gurzi and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll hear what a former NFL head coach thinks Deshaun Watson will do this season. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily. Herm Edwards, former NFL and Arizona State head coach, on what to expect from Deshaun Watson this season, what he expects from him.
I anticipate he'll have a fairly decent year, and when I say that, that's 25 touchdown passes. This guy was electric when he was back in Houston. Obviously, we watched what happened to him last year. He was out of football for 2 years. He was 3-3 as a starter for Cleveland. If you think about Cleveland last year, they were a 7-10 football team. They can flip the script if this plays well. They can be a 10-7 football team. And you think about the division they play in, everyone in that division, I'm talking about everyone, they were all 3-3. Cleveland Browns were 3-3. If this guy can find his way, everything is clean now. He's got a clean slate. He was out of football for 2 years. He's around the football team. He's in the locker room. He's practicing. I've said this about football. You cannot cheat the grass. What I mean by that is this. When you're not practicing the game of football, it's very difficult to be successful, especially at the quarterback position. I think he's going to have a really good year.
And Randy, I agree. I think if he plays 25 touchdowns, they're 10-7. If he has more than that, they could win 11 games. Any more than 11 games is going to be awfully tough for anybody that's playing in the AFC North because those teams are going to beat each other up.
They are. And I didn't even realize I was even wearing my Arizona State hat. I graduated from there. So showing my love to Herm, who he likes to yell when he talks. He gets really into it. But I think he's right. I think that, he made a really good point about, you can't cheat the game. You have to be able to practice. You have to be out there. And a lot of people were really quick to just assume that what we saw from Deshaun Watson last year is what we're going to see. But he was away from the game for so long, but you could see as he was getting more acclimated with the team that it was starting to become a little bit more comfortable. His stats would have been a little bit better last year, if not for a few key drops, a couple touchdowns were dropped. But you could see that he was slowly starting to get better. And I think that Herm's right. I think that he's going to come into this year with a lot more confidence. He was able to knock that rust off. There's nothing lingering over his head as far as, pending suspensions or anything like that. And then you just throw in the fact that, you added another tight end in Jordan Akins, who he's comfortable with. You added Elijah Moore to give another weapon, Marquise Goodwin. I think that they've done a good job building around him. And I agree. I could see 25. I could see even more touchdowns than that. But you're also correct that and AFC North is going to be a dogfight. 10 wins would be phenomenal. 11 wins would be really hard just because it's going to be hard for them to do anything better than 3-3 in that division, just because how tough it is.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is the offense he was running wasn't really designed for his skill set because he didn't play the first 11 weeks. And he then came in and was trying to learn teammates at game speed. So that kind of goes back to Herm Edwards saying, you've been away from it for so long, don't expect the time, football's an ultimate team game because it relies on timing with 11 guys. So I'm expecting a lot better. One of the reasons I think he's going to be better than he has been and almost as good as he was in Houston, the offensive line is as good as it's been. And take a look at the PFF offensive guard rankings. Zach Martin, number 1 for the Cowboys. Number 2, Quentin Nelson for the Colts. Joe Bitonio was number 3. Turned 32 in 2023. PFF pass blocking grades of 80 or better in each of the past 7 seasons. There should be no immediate worry about any significant drop-off. Wyatt Teller's 10th on this list. Teller came back down to earth a little bit in 2022. 2 really strong seasons as a run blocker with the Browns in 20 and 2021. Despite that, his 70.3 PFF grade in 2022, still 18th best mark at that position. And the other thing about Wyatt Teller was banged up last year and the year before. That interior with him, Posick, and Bitonio, that should give Deshaun Watson a lot of room to operate.
Yeah, and I agree with their rankings, and I would say the way that Posick played last year, Teller's probably the weak link of the interior of their line, which is really impressive to say because he's very good. So if your weak link is still one of the top guards in the NFL, that says a lot about how good you are in the middle there. I think that Teller is better as a run blocker than he is as a pass blocker, but at the same time, as you pointed out, he was banged up quite a bit. So I think that was why he came back to earth a little bit, as they said. But even his quote down season was still a very good year. So I think that the offensive line's really good, and I think that the tackles are better than they get credit for. I think Jack Conklin is one of the better right tackles in the NFL. And you got Jedrick Wills, who as much heat as he takes, I think the problem with him is that people see that he was a number 10 overall pick, so they're expecting him to be dominant. But he's been kind of a middle of the pack starter, which is you can win with that. So I think the offensive line in general is actually in really good shape right now.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think that will be a key to Deshaun Watson kind of playing the way he does, and then Nick Chubb as well. Randy Gurzi, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
Randy Gurzi, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff, Dog Pound Daily. Each week, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program, we recognize a role model student from somewhere across the state of Ohio. We head to Stowe Monroe Falls High School to meet senior Natalie Pigman. Pigman, one of the tops in her class academically, also a star on the Bulldogs speech and debate team. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program is proud to salute Natalie Pigman from Stowe Monroe Falls, this week's Shining Star. Stowe Monroe Falls senior Natalie Pigman is a leader at the high school, one of the tops academically in the classroom, a star on the debate team, and as a trumpet player, Natalie's one of the leaders of the band.
I definitely would say leadership skills. I have really grown throughout my years in band. Originally, I wouldn't say I was the most involved in my freshman year. I was kind of more shy and wasn't really involved, but over time I realized how important it was and how important it was to me to lead and show all of the younger kids what they need to do. So I've taken on leadership roles. I've been squad leader, I've been the section leader of the trumpets, and shown them what it means to lead other people and be a good, positive role model.
Pigman has been named the Young Award winner as the most inspirational public forum debater at Stowe Monroe Falls the last 2 years, and is getting ready in a couple of weeks to head to Phoenix, Arizona for the National High School Speech and Debate Competition.
My best friend is Faith. Her older sister did debate, but she was a senior and her partner had graduated the last year, so she was partnerless. And I was like, hey, Allie, can I be your partner next year? Because I was really interested in debate. So then Allie ended up teaching me all about debate, and I just loved it so much, so I kept doing it, and I found a new partner.
The skills Natalie has learned from the experience in speech and debate are ones she values greatly.
You have to prepare a topic every single month, and you go to debate tournaments every Saturday. So we were constantly preparing the topics, and they were always something very interesting though, so it was very useful, and it was the research skills I had from that was really amazing. It's really the research skills that's helped me the most in school, being able to research and write, because we have to write cases and write speeches, and then speech and debate has helped me speak better, of course, in front of audiences, so that's helped with school projects and just being more comfortable talking.
Her experience in debate had Natalie possibly interested in pursuing a career in law, but that's changed recently.
I was between either going into the law track, because I've done debate throughout high school, and that's something I loved, but I decided that I liked healthcare more and I wanted to help people that way.
Natalie is one of those students that has a dedication to learning. She truly wants to learn. She is self-motivated to learn, and she has the work ethic to get everything done. She always has her work done on time and done very thoroughly, done very well. And that's why she does so well in the classroom.
Natalie's interest in healthcare was piqued by a personal experience.
I've kind of dealt with severe allergies throughout my life. Originally, it was kind of middle school, I realized I'm never feeling good, and so we went and we got a lot of different allergy tests, and I realized I'm allergic to a lot of like outdoor things and then indoor, and so I got with an allergist and I started taking immunotherapy. And that's really helped me, and that entire thing has interested me in how that works and how all of the treatment works. So that really sparked my interest, and originally I was like, I love this and I want to become an allergist, this is so cool. And that's kind of diverged into what other opportunities are there in healthcare, and what can I research and find out about, and what can I, like new treatments I could make for people.
With that in mind, Natalie's choice for college next year became pretty obvious to her.
Ohio State, number one, I've always been a huge fan of Ohio State. My family's like very big football fans, so I love that. But also, they have the medical laboratory science program, which I'm pretty sure no other school in Ohio has a specific program for medical laboratory science, and that's something I'm very interested in. And I honestly just found that through searches into careers. When I was in my junior year of high school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, so I was looking online and I was looking at a lot of different healthcare jobs and stuff like that, because that's what I'm really interested in.
Because of all her advanced placement courses, Natalie has plenty of college credits already earned when she arrives at Ohio State. If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to OhioLottery.com. Find the About section. Click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star.
Well done, Natalie Pigman. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No show Monday because of the Memorial Day holiday, so have a great holiday weekend. We will see you Tuesday at 4 on Sports for CLE.